Hey, it's Rod Yates. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Humans of Music, a Jaxsta podcast. Each episode, I talk to a music creator or industry professional about their life and career, the ups and downs of their journey, and the lessons they've learned. And my special guest today is British singer-songwriter Alfie Templeman. So Alfie is the very definition of a prolific artist. He may have just released his debut album Mellow Moon, but over the past few years he's released 4 EPs and 1 mini-album, and he also has a side project called Aerial Days, with which he's released 2 full-length records and 1 EP. And you know what? He's only 19 years old. Really makes me think about all the time I've wasted over the years. Music has been the driving force in Alfie's life since he saw a Rush DVD at the age of 7. He started uploading songs to the internet at 14 and quit school at 16 to tour and pursue his career, which has so far seen him land on the long list for the BBC Music Sound of 2021 and Tour the World. In fact, when I caught up with Alfie in mid-June, he was in Sydney on his first ever Australian tour, and we started by talking about the first gig he ever saw.
Weirdly, it was King Crimson.
Really?
Yeah. But that was when I was 14. I'd never been to a gig before. And it's when they I think they've had 3 drummers for a long time, but watching that happen was just, it blew my mind. Yeah. To be fair, I think that's one of my favorite gigs ever as well.
What do you remember of that night?
Oh, I mean, it was a rehearsal. So I was really lucky because I know one of the drummers, kind of, Jeremy Stacey, and I managed to just go get to see them rehearse down the road from where I live, and I don't know, it was 3 hours long, and I knew all the songs, and I was a really big fan because I grew up kind of listening to them, and I was just in awe of this band and how Robert Fripp controlled the guitar and how he kind of led the band, sat on his little stool, just away from everything.
Yeah,
there's no real ego with him, really. He's such an important mark on music, yet he's so just down to earth and just sits there quietly and plays.
Wow.
So it was really cool. They're really incredible. Well recommend seeing them.
going to a rehearsal.
Yeah. Honestly, it's amazing.
What was it like when you left? Did you leave that room just buzzing? Were you just thinking?
Yeah. It just excited me, to be honest. There's so much musicality, and it was just overflowing my brain. So I think it definitely kicked me up the bum a little bit to go just home and just record and have fun and get creative.
Yeah.
Because they were one of those bands that did that for me, like Zappa and stuff like that. Listen to the musicality of it and how much it excited me, and how itchy it makes you feel. Those kind of Zappa things where it's it's so weird.
Yeah,
but it's so cool.
Yeah. Were you gigging yourself by this point?
I started gigging when I was 14, 15. So it was probably quite soon after. I think it kind of inspired me to play. But I when I started out, I wasn't doing that kind of music, obviously. I was actually messing around with metal bands and stuff, just at school. It was the one thing that everyone could kind of agree on playing.
Right. What kind of metal?
I don't know. It wasn't very good. We tried to be Rage Against the Machine kind of style, new metal kind of.
Yeah.
But we weren't good. we were very loose, and I used to always I'm not a metal singer at all. I just sang normally, and it didn't really work that well, and I never really knew the lyrics. I wrote lyrics, but I couldn't remember them. So when we played live, I'd just make them up on the spot. It would just be it's so embarrassing just thinking about it now.
It's good fun though, right? That's where it starts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was good fun. It was the first time I really got immersed in playing shows. And gigging and doing local venues. I'm from Bedford, so my local venue is called Esquires, and still one of my favourite places in the world. And the room's pitch black, you can't see anything. So it was really exciting being 14 and actually getting the opportunity to play those kind of places and just make that happen. That as a 14-year-old kid, that was incredible to me. It was such a big moment.
Yeah.
Even having a few people standing in that room, and it smelt of beer, and it was the first time I've really been in a venue and stuff. And it was just it was just interesting to me, and it still makes me excited when I play gigs now.
Yeah.
That venue smell and just walking back in, whether you're seeing a gig or playing one, it's really cool to get immersed back in that feeling.
Yeah. Did you did you have to have your parents chaperone you to that show, or how did that work?
Yeah, but it was only 20-minute drive, so my dad would just take me, and my dad's he's my tour manager, so Yeah, he helps me out with all of that. He's really good with it. He's actually a builder, really. But basically, I just wanted someone in the family to stay with me because I'm still pretty young, still figuring it out, you know.
Definitely. So, because your first ever tour was when you were 15, wasn't it? You were quite young.
16.
16.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was with Sports Team, which they're a band back in the UK.
Yeah.
And our music's very different because, like, at the time I went on tour, that's when I started making like indie pop, when I kind of transitioned from just like indie to like indie pop, and they asked me to play, but they're kind of like a pure rock and roll band. Alex Rice, the singer, he's very much like a Mick Jagger type, and the rest of them, they've got that kind of like, over in England, we've got Radio 6.
Right.
And it's kind of like the dad's radio, where like you get all of these bands that kind of talk over, right, like, you know, those talking bands, that kind of thing. So it was that kind of music, and it was really cool getting into that scene and like meeting tons of friends that I'm still mates with to this day and doing things like that. And it's also music that I want to explore myself, you know. A lot of it's founded on, like I was saying, like bits of krautrock and stuff. So it's quite interesting to me.
What did it teach you about touring? Did you learn anything about touring from that?
To not get
run?
drunk every day was a good one. That was a good first start. I mean, when I was 16, like, it was really new to me, and you could easily get a bit over the top. So Sports Team drank a lot. So I figured out that like I couldn't play with hangovers and I couldn't play drunk either. Because like it would make me really confident, and I'd go on stage and be terrible. So I don't drink before shows now.
Okay.
Hardly drink afterwards. Just if you're on a tour, then you want to be careful. You want to like pace yourself. Also, like knowing how fragile your voice is. You know, if you're playing, I mean, at the time we were only playing half an hour sets because we were supporting, we were new, so it was like we could get away with it. But then when my first like headline tour came up, which was like this year actually, it was like I've learned so much recently just from like preserving your voice. You know, if you're doing over an hour long show, you want to make sure that your voice can handle it, and you want to make sure that you're not you're not going like that, you're not grating on your voice at all. You want to make sure you're singing correctly. So I actually got a few vocal lessons, and that it wasn't about singing, it was more about just how you control your singing, how you control your diaphragm, and make sure that you sing the right way, in a way that would like make you able to like play for a month non-stop, basically, back-to-back shows, you know. It's really, really interesting, really important for me.
All this stuff they don't tell you when you're young and you're dreaming of what it would be like.
Well, exactly. It's such a niche thing as well, like touring and stuff, that you wouldn't get that advice in school or anything, would you? You just have to find out from other people that have experienced it themselves, you know.
That's it. And I guess the reason why you're in Australia is, of course, because Mellow Moon.
Yeah.
Your debut album is out.
Yeah, which is crazy that it's actually out there. And considering it's like, it happened so long ago as well, recording it, 2020, when I was 17. So it's been a long time coming, basically.
So you've just been sitting on it for the last couple of years.
Yeah, but not because I've necessarily wanted to. I think it's just with COVID, like vinyl pressing took ages. I finished the record like halfway through 2021. So it goes back a while now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I imagine you've probably written the second and the third records by
maybe
now.
A bit the fourth as well. Still working on the concept for that one. I've written a lot of songs since, like 2 years worth of songs, basically.
That's
you
it.
know? Because, I've had that much time since.
Yeah,
and my style's changed so much. It's quite weird. I've gone from very much pop music to just messing around with all kinds of different, like no formula, basically, at all. Yeah, which I'm really excited about, just trying something completely different that's very, very much left field, like just completely new. Yeah,
nice.
So,
I saw your Instagram post when the record came out, and you said that here's to a project that made me think very, very differently. Yeah. In what way did it do that?
Yeah, well, I think it was, with the pandemic on top of it, and I was 17, I feel like that age is it's one of those years in your life where you change quite a lot anyway, but with a pandemic on top of it, it could have gone either way. I could have actually learnt nothing about myself because I was stuck inside, or actually I could have dug deeper. And I just dug deeper in my mind a lot of the time, and I answered up a lot of questions that I was kind of like pushing away when I was a lot busier and doing things all the time. But now I had a bit more time on my hands, and it was like I could finally just answer the things that were kind of bugging me in my head. I feel like that's a big part of growing up, you know. And I just left school as well, and things were changing a lot. I was finding out a lot more about myself. So making that record, I guess it's the first time that I kind of had a bit of clarity in my mind, and I was a bit more honest and open about myself. But looking at it now, it's nothing compared to how I feel about myself now. Yeah. Like, even since I made Mellow Moon, it feels like I'm years apart from that person. Sure. That was just like the opening gate to what I am now, basically, I think, in a lot of ways.
What were some of the key things that you got clarity around?
I think I was more open to just admitting that, like, mentally I wasn't doing well. That was a big one for me. Like, a lot of the time I was good at just pushing things aside and just ignoring them. But now I was actually like, it's okay to face this anxiety. It's okay to face, like, the weight of, like, just the world and not being okay with a lot of things and just, like, little things that bugged me, little things that made me feel uncomfortable. I was more, like, capable of just approaching these things and sweeping them up and sorting them out a bit more. So that was definitely one. And I think I also just became a lot more confident in terms of, like, my singing, my ability in making music, like saying no a bit more, not just saying yes to everything as someone on a label and stuff, I think that's an important factor, and realizing that, it was my music, it was under my name. So actually I make the decision here, like, it's important to actually have the guts to face it and stand up for yourself in the industry. If you're listening to me, then you're listening to me because you want to hear what my mind has to say. So it was about actually going, okay, I'm going to make sure that this is raw and honest and real, and that's something that I've been doing ever since in the last couple years with my music.
Is that something you'd faced, of people trying to steer you in certain directions?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that just comes with being an artist anyway. If you make an album in a certain way and it goes down well, then people are going to want you to kind of keep to that formula. But actually, I always wanted to change it up a little bit. And also, I learned from so many mistakes. Like, there's so many songs, and I look back at a lot of the old records and I'm like, oh, I could have done this better. And there's nothing you can really do. You have to just move on and say, okay, next time it will be better, because you can't really change the past now that it's just done and those records are done. So it's about just learning from what you've done already and building on that, basically.
Yeah. And you mentioned that, I guess, coming to terms with your mental state and accepting some of the things. And you've got that song, which is called Broken, which is so anthemic and so upbeat. It's such a great song, but it's got those lyrics. I feel so pathetic, I'm not energetic. And then a little bit later, I look out of order, I'm malfunctioning. What was it like writing those words down?
I mean, they're so upfront, I feel like the music kind of covers that a little bit, funnily, which is the point of it, really, because I'm still not quite ready to just go, okay, here's how I feel, completely raw. Like, I still need to mask it a little bit in those sounds and sonics a little bit, but still writing those down felt quite empowering and quite important because I'd never really done it like that before. Yeah. So it was kind of a turning point. And like, seeing people's responses to it and just people being chill with it and actually, like, understanding was a really big step and a really big boost of confidence for me. So and it was obviously observations in the pandemic. It was things that I'd noticed about myself, whether I was procrastinating, whether I just didn't have any energy because of depression, things like that. That's what kind of led me to actually be able to say those things in the first place.
Do you find that, because a lot of people would feel that way as well, and they will forge a deep connection with you over lyrics like that. Do you see yourself becoming a role model or a spokesman, even unwittingly?
No, not at all. No, I don't think anyone's role model should be a 19-year-old either. Like, I don't have enough of my life together to really tell other people what to do. How am I gonna know that unless I was completely comfortable with myself and knew what I was doing? But then again, I don't really believe in role models because I think everyone's flawed in a lot of different ways, and it's like, sure, you can be influenced by people, but I think it's quite scary for me to, like, completely follow someone to that degree sometimes. Yeah. But I can understand why a lot of people have comfort people, but I think that's a big difference to a role model in a lot of ways. Yeah,
right. There's, towards the end of the album, with a song like Just Below the Above, it feels like there's almost a little bit of a contrast. You've got that line, it's easy to see that this world ain't for me. I found peace, at least in my head. It's almost like, have you found acceptance by that point in the record?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about surrendering in a lot of ways. Like, I know that there's a lot of things that make me feel uneasy in this world, but it's about surrendering to those things and just saying, hey, there's not an entire lot you can actually do to change the way that other people think. When there's 7 billion people, you kind of just have to let it slide. It's kind of a scary thing when you put yourself out there as an artist, because there's a lot of people that can bite and attack and make you feel uneasy. And as someone with anxiety, that scares me a lot. But at the same time, I'm still having a blast doing this. And like yesterday, like just being in Sydney, having a day off, like really made me feel that. It was like, this is why I do it, Like I'm here, I'm making music. I got to just sit down for a minute, because the last few days, if I'm honest, like when I was jet lagged, it was quite intense for me. I had quite a rough time just because everything was going everything, like my head was a big pulse and everything was like non-stop, and I was a bit overwhelmed, like playing like multiple shows when you're jet lagged. It can make you feel like a bunch of different emotions, so I was very all over the place. But yeah, when I had a minute to think, it's like I'm so ready for today's show, you know? I'm just so excited. It's like I can really take it in today because I've had time to just like take a moment and relax and surrender to that. So just below the above is exactly that kind of feeling. It's dealing with those emotions, and I think that's what the next album is about, kind of surrendering and actually finding peace and just like letting yourself hold back a little bit. Like that's something that I'm really interested in, and something going forward that I think will help with my mental health a lot. Yeah. As well as just talking directly about my feelings in a way.
Yeah. So that I guess coping mechanisms that you have developed is one of them, recognizing, as you said, recognizing the symptoms and trying to take a step back. Is that one of the ways that you can...
finding your feet, basically, you know? Just working your way up, basically, in a lot of ways. Just it's always good to start from somewhere and just relaxing and just coping a little bit more and just holding back, like taking a second. I think that's really important for me.
How long did it take before you realized that? Like, how long did you deal with these circumstances before you actually developed those sorts of mechanisms?
Oh, I feel like even now I'm still learning from it, you know? But I'm a lot more aware. I think in the last few months, especially after the tour, after the headline tour I did, where I didn't really put enough preparation into it, I realized a lot, and I was like, okay, I actually need to like have a bit more self-care. And that was a big step up for me, I guess, like April kind of time, when I just took some time to like say, okay, you need to really care about your mental health here. You need to take a bit more time. You need to have a bit more of a schedule. Like those things really made a big difference to me in the way that I like kind of thought and the way that I feel, and getting therapy, getting different types of counseling, like trying out different people rather than just like, because for a while with therapy for me as well, I found it quite difficult because it would be like, you'd call a therapist and you get kind of stuck with them. And as someone with anxiety, I was pretty bad at saying, okay, sorry, you're not kind of for me. You know, I don't really find this therapy helping me. But I recently spoke to like a counselor that like, you talk about your feelings and then they'll say, okay, here's a few different therapists. I think this one's right for you or this one's right for you. So you can try out different people and go down different routes. So I think that was really important for me, rather than like just going down one road, like having a million different ways to like delve into your feelings and thoughts. Yeah. So that was really important as well, I think.
And does medication play a part as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was on antidepressants for a while. I'm kind of like transitioning at the moment because like I stopped taking them a while back because the ones that I was on didn't really work. But in the UK, there's some of them aren't very useful. There's a kind of a big thing in the UK about them. Like our normal one's sertraline, but it doesn't really help. And sometimes mental health services can be a bit over there. So I'm just talking to doctors really about like changing meds.
And the title, Mellow Moon, does that also represent a headspace for you where like a safe space? Is that what the idea behind Mellow Moon means?
Yeah. I mean, in the pandemic, the moon was... I was in my bedroom recording the record and also thinking... I stayed up at night quite a lot just thinking about these things, you know, what I was saying earlier, related to what I was saying earlier. Like, when I was changing as a person, I'd stay up and think about, like, just everything on my mind quite a lot. And the moon was kind of like the one thing that was next to me outside and kind of aided me in that. It was like the one bit of light in the middle of the night. So it felt quite comforting for me to have that next to me.
Right.
So that's why it is the Mellow Moon, because it's kind of like a comfort place for me.
Nice. And is that still the case?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I still stay up pretty late and think about lots of different things. So, yeah, it's the same old story.
You mentioned that one of the things you're looking to explore on the next album and the album after that is music that's a little bit freer, I guess, and isn't so much in that indie pop, that realm. And earlier you were talking about, you know, going to King Crimson performance and your love of Zappa as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting because am I right in thinking that Rush was actually kind of your gateway band into this world?
Yeah, Rush, because they just played well, you know. They played well, and a lot of what Neil Peart wrote about, because he wrote the lyrics for their songs, a lot of what he wrote about is really interesting to me. Like songs like Free Will and stuff like that. Is the lyrics have a really deep meaning, and there was something as a kid that I toned into a bit and listened closely to. So
even at 7.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously you see it a lot differently when you're like a 7-year-old kid. Like I wasn't deep in it as much, obviously. but it was really cool to me.
And was it because your dad, a friend of your dad's, had a DVD of Rush?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it was my first big passion. That kind of like all of a sudden everything was like, it set me off. I was on fire. Like I just felt the music. It was the first thing I was really, really passionate about as a kid, and that's what made me want to record as well and take up drums and guitar.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I had a really big passion for it, basically.
And was Neil an influential drummer to you in that regard?
Oh, yeah. Neil Peart was my favourite always. And then Bill Bruford as well, and like Billy Cobham, like people like that.
Okay.
Those are like some of my favourites.
How did Neil's passing affect you?
I mean, it was so weird because I was reading his book like the day before he died, and I was like really getting into Rush again. It was like something that I picked up, and then him dying was really weird. I feel like I never really took it in, to be fair.
Okay.
Like it was a big one. Look, growing up, my favourite drummer was Neil Peart, and my best mate Joss, his was Joey Jordison, and Joey Jordison passed last year. So we both had like weird things where we just couldn't really take it. He reacted to Joey Jordison's very similar to how I did. He couldn't really take it in.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like he's gone really though, because like, I mean, he was a very private person anyway, and it feels no different in a lot of ways. It feels like he's just still there playing, you know.
Was there an album or two in particular in the early days that really got you into the band?
Yeah, it was Hemispheres for me, which is like the top of their like prog stuff, basically. Yeah, that was what really like set my world on fire. And Farewell to Kings, those two. And 2112, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
What's the Hemisphere? Is it open like 18-minute
18-minute opener, yeah. Cygnus X1 Book 2. Yeah. Yeah, I love that song. That was the first song that just like blew my mind.
So it's not, I mean, this isn't typical listening of a 7-year-old.
No, I don't know why I listened to it, you know?
Yeah.
But it was like my favourite thing growing up.
And this was...
And the passages. You never knew what was coming next, you know?
And your dad was into it as well?
My dad liked it only because my dad's like into rockabilly and stuff, but just because his mate listened to Rush growing up, he was just like, he tagged along and he was like, oh, actually this is pretty good. Yeah. Because it has a lot of like rockier stuff in it as well that my dad would like. So
okay.
He doesn't like Genesis though. Not very much.
So you see that DVD, is that literally the catalyst for you picking up drums? Because you started learning drums around 7 or 8.
Yeah. It was literally what set me off. Like looking at his drum kit, the like 360 drum kit, it just blew my mind. I was so excited. Yeah. I was just so excited by it. I remember being a kid and like trying to buy, like, you know, like that Beatles drum kit over there. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that I found his kit for like £100 or something in England on eBay. And I was like, yes. And then realised it was just like a toy. But yeah.
But so your dad was supportive of this?
Yeah. He actually, like, at first he bought me a guitar because I asked for a drum kit, like an electronic drum kit, but he was like, no way, because he thought I'd just give it up. But like eventually I just like pushed for it, and like the next Christmas, like I got a little kit and just started playing electric drums, and then I eventually just upgraded to like a cheap little acoustic, and played that until probably about 3 years ago. I recorded it on all my first recordings. It was just like that cheap kit that I grew up playing, and I just tuned the drums and differently, and then like the same guitar that my dad bought me when I was 7, which was like a Squier Fender. Yeah. So I just used that, and then like for bass, I just like octaved it down. Okay. I recorded bass and then octaved it down on like Audacity, and that's what I used for like years. Yeah. Like a really bad cheap mic, basically. That was it. That's how I made all my first demos.
But I love the fact that your dad was obviously very supportive. He saw a passion in you early, and was just, even if, you know, you mentioned he was a builder. So presumably that world that you love is quite a long way away from the world that he knows as a builder. But he saw something in you that said...
he saw it. And I think it's because, as well as that, like he played guitar growing up, and he probably had the same kind of passion. He taught himself as well to play guitar and stuff. So I think he must have had kind of like a big passion for it as well when he was like probably early teens, that kind of time.
Right. And so does Rush lead to Zappa, lead to Todd Rundgren? And is that where it's all...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of, because Rush was the first introduction to prog, and then after that, that's when I got into like Genesis with like Selling England by the Pound and stuff like that. And that's when those kind of... Because with Genesis, it taught me a lot about melody, like early Genesis, because it was so rich in it. And obviously the Beatles as well. I learned a lot through Paul McCartney's melodies. And that, I think that's what kind of kickstarted me with that. And then Zappa obviously was just like all over the wall. You didn't know where to go with him. And then Zappa kind of got me into the more jazz fusiony stuff like Mahavishnu Orchestra and Gong and stuff like that. Yeah. And then like after that, I was just like, wow, okay, I think I've I've reached peak of listening to music. Like I could just do whatever now. So it just opened up a massive world for me, like a world that it was like a switch and you can't turn it off basically, because there was so much music like swarming around that I was just obsessed with, like when I was a kid.
Yeah. So when you're learning the drums or you're learning the guitar, you know, most people when they're starting out, they might start with AC/DC and they'll learn that really 4-on-the-4 beat or a simple riff. Are you learning Zappa? Are you learning Rush? Is this what you're kind of listening to, trying to figure out how to play?
I would never actually learn to play it. I'd just like listen to it to the point where I think I'd know where to put my fingers on a guitar, and I'd mess it up completely.
Sure.
You know, like, to be fair, I a lot of the time I growing up learning guitar, Zeppelin was a big one for me. Like just listening to Page and just copying him to the biggest extent possible.
Right.
Like I was always listening to Jimmy Page, so I think he got me into like the way I played guitar. I could never copy something like Zappa or anything because I wasn't good enough. He was just all over the place, you know.
But do you think they've informed the way you write songs?
Yeah, I mean, definitely now, because like a few years ago with the indie pop stuff, I never really had the balls to do it. But I think now I'm actually starting to say, okay, I'm going to do that. I've been writing in different time signatures and bits and pieces and messing around with stuff. Not because I can, but just because it actually excites me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me. And it's there, so...
I can't wait to hear these new songs.
Yeah, some of them are probably really stupid, but yeah.
So guitar, drums, you teach yourself to play, but that's not
drums. I got taught.
Oh, you got taught.
Drums was like jazz drums. It was like listening to Buddy Rich and stuff, and so I learned like paradiddles. I learned drags. I learned flams. I learned rudiments, like all of that kind of stuff, rather than like a 4-on-the-floor beat. Like learning how to play ghost notes. So I learned all of those bits, and then that filled the gaps in a way.
Okay.
But everything else I was self-taught. I was messing around with, basically.
Yeah, because you didn't stop at guitar. If what I've read is correct, there's 11 instruments.
Yeah, but that's I don't know. That's a load of rubbish. I can't actually play 11 instruments, man. That's a stretch. Like I can play like drums, bass, and guitar. I'd say pretty well, and then a bit of keys and stuff.
Okay.
And like, yeah, sure. There's bits like my postman gave me a sitar, so I started putting it on my records. That doesn't mean I can play sitar. It just means that I mess around with it, you know?
What a great postman.
Yeah, I know. He just found it in the dumpster. So he was like, here you go. He didn't know anyone else that would play it. So
Had word got around town that you were the music guy?
Yeah, I mean, he just gave it to my dad, and my dad had no clue what to do with it. So he was like, here you go.
Okay.
Mess around with it. And then... yeah, I guess like he was just like, everyone knew my dad is like a guitarist around I'm from a tiny village, so you know, I guess it was because of that, basically.
Yeah. That village, Carlton in Bedford?
Yeah.
So how many people? How tiny?
Like 800.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty small. Yeah, there's not many people in it. So we're like growing up, there wasn't many things going on, so that's why I like recorded quite a lot and messed around with music.
Yeah. Could you find like-minded people there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a group of musicians, but they're all older as well. So, but I've also got a lot of friends from that area and the guys from the band, you know. So,
so the guys from the band are still friends from
Bedford, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's got to be good.
They're all local. Yeah, it's great. It's like Bedford on tour. It's great. It's really cool. We were talking about that yesterday. It's like, how did we get here? You know?
Yeah. How are you regarded in Bedford?
That's a really good question. I don't know, probably uncool.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Touring the world?
Nah. I think in my village, like people are like, "Well, this is really cool." Like it's village yap.
Right.
Like that I'm in Australia and doing stuff, which is pretty cool.
So how big was the school you were at?
100 people.
Across the whole
school.
Wow.
Yeah, in my lower school, and then in my middle school it's like 400 people because we were 3 tiers, so we had lower school, middle school, and upper school, and then upper school was like 2,000. So that was pretty big. I was quite nervous to go to upper school, and music was like a massive coping mechanism during that period when I was like 13.
Yeah,
I would come home and wind down through making a song, and it would help me like not worry about school as much, I guess.
That's what I was wondering, that immersion in music, that dedication to learning instruments. Was that a comfort to you back when you were growing up? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was a massive comfort. And I feel like in a lot of ways I didn't even realise it, but I was just so immersed in it. And it was such a, you know, it was kind of like that moment of just bliss where you just like forget you even doing it, that kind of thing. You know, just going back after school and working on a computer just making music, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's like midnight. I'm gonna go to bed.
Really?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
How did all that work with your studies? Were you much of a student?
I mean, I passed. I did GCSEs. GCSEs you do when you're like 16, and I passed like 5 of my exams. So I got like English and maths and religious studies, like all of that kind of stuff. So I passed, but I wouldn't say I revised very much. Like, I revised maths quite a bit, but everything else I did not.
Did you study music at school?
No, I can't read music or anything.
Okay.
But I have perfect pitch, weirdly. So I couldn't even study music because I wasn't learning I wasn't doing grades at school. So I wasn't actually properly like learning anything. But like, I think perfect pitch was the reason why I could like pick up notes and stuff.
Okay.
But I did music tech, but it wasn't like an actual like proper course or anything.
Right.
It was like a side thing.
What were you like as a kid?
Hyper. Really hyper. I guess that's why I was always making music. Just
right.
Very, very hyper, very keen to do things all the time.
Okay.
Which is good, I think.
Yeah.
But I guess it's what fueled me to do more and more things.
Yeah. Because that could be quite overwhelming as well for people around you. Did you have a sense that was the case?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think like people got tired very quickly. But there was a group of people, which are like, you know, like the band that were the same. And my best mate, Joss, he was in the same year as me and we grew up together. And like I was saying, like the Joey Jordison thing and all of that, basically we used to just jam music together. So it was me and him. We'd make demos together as kids. Like he was like the same age. Like we started making music together when we were like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Just recording at home. And like, because I was into Rush at the time, obviously, I was like, we were making songs like ripping off like 2112 or whatever, call them like 1551 and stuff. It's really stupid. And then I'd like say, okay, we're gonna jam for like 20 minutes, and we'd like start playing, and then I'd like look on the computer to see how long we've recorded for, and it'd be like 1:20 or something. It's so funny. But
who even taught you to use that software and to record? And
it was just like Audacity, you know. I just found it on the internet, like I think my aunt showed me how to record basically when I was a kid. She had like a Mac and so she showed me GarageBand, but I didn't know how to use it or anything. So I like tried to look up free software and found Audacity, and like that's the first time I really recorded or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the first song you wrote? Do you remember?
Oh, no way. I cannot remember that. That was so long ago. It wouldn't have been very good. No, but it would have been like just music because I didn't sing or anything.
Okay. And that idea of actually going home from school and recording. So how old were you when you started to make your own demos and actually...
Yeah, like my own stuff, I guess I did when I was like 13. Yeah, and then I started putting it out on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just what I used for ages before I'd even put it on Spotify. And then I put it on Spotify when I was like 15, and that's when I got signed because it got on a Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
It was all just luck through one song.
Well, what was the goal? When you were 13 putting it on Bandcamp, you were doing it in the hope of...
Well, I just like albums. I was into albums as a kid, obviously, like just listening to like records from start to finish. And I think there was something really exciting and felt really whole and accomplished, like making a record. So with Bandcamp, I was just trying to make albums. I was trying to make as many records as I could, like just work on songs and making full works and stuff, and like seeing them go on Bandcamp as full albums really excited me. And it's like a dream to like go get my record on vinyl and stuff as a kid. And yeah, just seeing it as a finished product really excited me. Doing the artwork, doing the music, mixing it, mastering it, you know, stuff like that.
And you did it all?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. It was just me messing around at home. There was no one else that was gonna get involved really. they were too busy just like doing other things, like, but Joss did the same thing at home all the time. It was just he was making very, very different music to what I was, so we were just like, we'll go our separate ways with it and just mess around at home.
So given that you did all that yourself, when people did start showing an interest and start to offer you advice that you were talking about earlier, was that really hard to get your head around, the fact that other people now wanted to have a say in this project that you'd really built from ground up and done absolutely everything for?
Yeah, I mean it was completely different to me. Like just seeing how it worked in the industry in general was really interesting, because there were a lot of things that stayed the same, you know. And when I first did like the early EPs, like there was one called Like an Animal that I did. It was still me just playing everything and writing everything. It was just now, you know, even having someone else doing the artwork for you and putting together the image of the product, like I still had a big say in it, but I still but someone else still helped me with it, you know.
Yeah.
Getting someone to mix the record, like having that kind of thing, it was very exciting because it was like, oh, I wonder what they've done to it, what have they done to enhance it. So yeah, there were lots of things obviously that I'd never seen or heard of before, and hearing that I was going to be in like a newspaper or something, like my first bit of press, that was a whole new world to me. It was something that I'd never experienced before because, you know, I didn't know how to do that as a kid. I didn't know how to get myself out there. I just put the songs on the internet and that was it. That was press to me. So yeah, it was crazy.
We'll be back with more from Alfie after this break. Welcome back to Humans of Music and my interview with Alfie Templeman. When did you get the sense that it was actually connecting, that people were listening? Could you see Bandcamp numbers? Could you see Spotify streams?
Yeah. Well, by that time, you know, with the first song that really got me through was Like an Animal, which was like an early single. And like the first time it happened was obviously through the Spotify like playlist, and it was just like a algorithmic playlist called Discover Weekly, and I could see that people were saving the song, and that was really exciting me. It was, you know, I was seeing that streams were going up, and like I had a few monthly listeners, and people were sharing it, and people were following me on social media, and I was like, okay, this is really interesting to me. All of a sudden, I'm actually getting people from all across the world just discovering me out of nowhere. And then when the label discovered me, that was like when it was like, okay, wow, this is crazy. Like how just my song from my bedroom is connected this far into like the actual industry.
Was that Chess Club?
Chess Club, yeah. Who I'm still with.
Yeah, right. So when you turn 16 and you leave school, were those little tastes of success, were they enough to suggest to you that, all right, I reckon I could make something of this?
Yeah, I mean, I started off slow. It was just kind of like, we'll put this EP out and see what happens, basically. You know, there wasn't a big deal. There wasn't anything like that. That's what I was really thankful with Chess Club about. You know, it wasn't like I was approached by a big major and they were like, here's a 10 album deal. It was actually like, because it was at the end of 2018, I put out that first record. I still hadn't done my exams. So I was like, okay, I'll wait it out. I'll see what it's like by the time I've done my exams. And by the time I did my exams, I'd done another record, and like things had really snowballed in like the last few months. And there were talks of doing tours. There were talks of doing like a record, like getting an actual deal. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to try this. I think I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And that's how it came to play, basically.
And your parents were cool?
Yeah, my parents were really cool about it. But well, because in their eyes, you know, it was what I'd always wanted to do. Back to when my dad had got me that first guitar or drum set. You know, it'd been 8 years in the making when you think about it. By the time I'd been from 7 to 15.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, that's enough time to he's proved that he actually wants to do it. It's not like I just played the drums for a bit and then gave it up. I was still very much, you know, really devoted to making music.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were always for it.
So what was it like when term goes back for the rest of your friends and it doesn't go back for you? And you're just focused on music. What was that feeling like?
Well, everyone else was in like sixth form, which is like college, you know, and that was very weird. It felt like I was missing out in a weird way, actually. And I definitely wrote about that for a while. I wrote about the fact that it was like, you know, I was missing out on what was probably a lot of people's best summers and stuff, and I just felt like I didn't really know what was going on in anyone else's life. So felt like I didn't lose friends, but I couldn't keep up with them anymore. It felt like they were completely different people, and going on tour and not seeing people as much anymore, that was weird. It was definitely strange. But then I met more and more people on tour, and I became friends with people in this industry that felt the same way, and there was a great deal of comfort in that.
Right.
And you know, I've met some of my closest friends just through doing this, you know. So I think that's a really important thing to remember.
Yeah. One of the challenges of doing it at that age, sort of 16-ish, is getting people to take you seriously. Yeah. And not just go, well, people are coming to see him because he's young. Yeah. Like, how did you deal with that?
Well, the way I approached it was, you know, I wasn't too serious in the first place, you know. There was never too much of like me going, I'm really serious about this, like, listen to my songs. I'm, you know, I was just like, I'm having fun with it. You know, I'm a kid just making tunes, and I've got a good life. I'm happy at the moment. I'm feeling good. So that was it. You know, I'm playing festivals. Just come see me for a laugh. You know, it'll be good. Yeah. So it was never too much like anything more than that. So I think people just tagged along. They were just like, okay, cool. It's like a chill vibe. We just turn up to a gig, we play and have fun, and that's it.
Yeah.
Goodbye, good night.
And is that still the attitude
Yeah, it's still the
now?
case. We just have fun. We never really plan it too much. We just go into it and have a good time. And I think that's really important.
Is there a part of you that was actually a little bit frightened when people started to show up for shows and take an interest?
Yeah, and I still am now. Yeah, because it's people that want to meet you and want to tell you their story about how they've got into you, which is amazing. But at the same time, it's also a big weight. It's crazy that like people connect to you in that way, and people have got tattoos of me and stuff, and that's I can't take that in at all.
What do you mean, of your face?
Not of my face, I guess lyrics and stuff. I mean, I don't know. There's maybe someone with my face on them, but I have no clue. You never know.
When was the first time you saw someone with your lyrics tattooed on them?
It was probably last year, and it was like my side project. I have like a side project called Aerial Days, and I think it was an Aerial Days tattoo, and that was actually really cool to me because I'm really proud of that project. So it was really cool to me. But when people started getting even more, I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It's really cool to me, but also very scary in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Weirdly.
There's a pressure with it.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I guess that ties into what you were talking about earlier with the anxiety that you're trying to cope with. And can that pressure compound that anxiety, or is it just a matter of just trying to figure it all out?
Yeah, I think it does. And, sometimes I feel bad about that. And then I'm like, well, it's only just my natural way of responding to it, It's hard to deal with sometimes, that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
But that's okay, It's valid.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Aerial Days project.
Yeah.
So, because Mellow Moon is your debut album as Alfie Templeman. But you also put out an album this year with Aerial Days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put out another one in 2020.
2020,
and an EP in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've done 4 EPs, Alfie Templeman EPs, prior to this record?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think it was Like an Animal, Sunday Morning Cereal, Don't Go Wasting Time, Happiness in Liquid Form, and then I did a mini album, Forever Isn't Long Enough. So that's 5 projects, and then Mellow Moon, and then I did an Aerial Days EP and 2 Aerial Days albums. So, quite a lot of stuff in like 4 years.
It's a lot. Like you've got this insatiable desire to create. Yeah,
I love it, and that's the whole point of Aerial Days. Like, it's self-released completely. It's just like I made my own label for it years ago with my mate called Haunted Attic, and we kind of just put everything through there. It's not actually a label. It's just like it's a better name than just saying Distro Kid. So I do all the artwork. I do them. It's the same reason why I got into music. This is what I mean. Like I there's a desire to do it.
Yeah.
Like, make the artwork, make the music, and it was how I started off with the Alfie thing. Aerial Days is a continuation of that.
Yeah.
It's that same passion and that same feeling.
What's the difference in the music, do you think, between the 2 projects?
Well, Aerial Days is very much folk, at the moment at least. I think with the great thing with Aerial Days is that there's not a particular hype around it. It kind of just exists and people just listen to it because it's got no promo or anything, or no press or anything at all. It's just its own thing, and I want to keep it that way. It's got a really good audience, like people just listen and enjoy, and I just put up the songs and just leave them there,
Yeah.
And I did a little pressing for it of the first Aerial Days record on vinyl and stuff like that, and it was like crowdfunded, so it's just cool to do things like that.
Yeah.
And when it's just you, it's really cool. I really like seeing it pay off and knowing that I can still just do that myself without anyone's help, kind of thing.
Yeah. Is there room for anything else in your life?
I mean, not at the moment, but I always have ideas for films and stuff, and I've always wanted to do soundtracks, so maybe one day I can delve into that a bit deeper as well. I think, hopefully. Yeah.
Are you a big film buff?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, recently, I've been watching a few TV shows as well. I watched like Severance recently, and that show has just completely messed with my brain. So I'm getting into it more and more. I have a big bucket list. Like, I want to watch Taxi Driver soon and stuff like that.
Oh, you haven't seen Taxi Driver?
I haven't seen Taxi Driver. No, I don't know how, but always planning to watch films, and I just never do.
Yeah. So you think scoring is somewhere that you'd really love to get into?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not only with my own songs, but like I feel like I'd be pretty good at like recommending like other smaller artists and like getting syncs for like other bands and artists, like helping people out with that kind of thing. Because I always find really great songs that I think can fit films perfectly and like break those kind of songs. But
Okay.
I guess like an A&R kind of thing in a way.
Yeah,
I
that's
suppose.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Do you have any desire to get into that side of things, into having your own label where you would sign acts and
I'm not sure I'd do my own label. But I mean, maybe one day. It's just like I'm kind of worried about the responsibility of something that big, you know. But maybe I could do a John Lydon, because he did that A&R thing where he was just like, I think he was an A&R for Virgin at one point. Like he just like worked with another label. So maybe I could work with a smaller little label or something.
Sure.
And, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. There are a couple of, and just last couple of things. There are a couple of people in your life, particularly who have worked on Mellow Moon, who I'd love to talk to you about and just see if you've learned anything from them, or if they've offered you any advice. One of which is Kieran Shuttle from Circa Waves, and the other is Justin Young from the Vaccines.
Oh,
cool. What has it been like working with both of them, and have they offered any advice? Or
they both working with both of them was really cool for me, because I mean, they're kind of they're big people, you know. They've written a lot of amazing songs that I grew up listening to, and I had to kind of pinch myself a little bit working with both of them. I was 16 when I started working with both of them, and I couldn't believe that they like made time for me at first. It felt very strange that like they worked with someone that's like small and just like coming up, but they taught me so much. I mean, Justin's taught me a billion things, like even just about lyrics and structuring things, and he has a certain way of writing lyrics. He's got and I think it's really inspired me, and it's like kind of shaped a lot of my songs as well. The way that he kind of like sets things out, everything has like a heartbeat rhythm in a way, kind of similar to like a Shakespeare poem or something. Yeah, he has a way of like accenting things with lyrics, and so he's taught me a lot about lyrics and taking time with lyrics as well. And like sometimes we'll just like bounce like tons of notes, just random words, and he'll cut them up, I'll cut them up, we'll mess around with it and bang phrases together and stuff. So he's really helped me with that. It's just about like pouring out your feelings and just being honest as possible. And then Kieran's probably one of like the most down-to-earth people I've ever worked with ever. Like he's such a chill person. He's so relaxed, and he never freaks out, because I freak out quite a bit when I'm recording, and like if I don't get a guitar part or a piano part down, like I freak out, I get in a mess, like everything goes wrong, and I just don't bother making the song. But he's all about, you know, give it a minute, like take a break, come back to it, and he just knows how to piece the puzzle together. You always feel sane. You'd never feel afraid with him, and I think that's really important, you know, when you're making a song with someone else as well, because I'm still not very comfortable with working with too many different producers and stuff, but he's really important in the way that you're comfortable about just saying any idea that you have in your head. Like he's open to anything. Right. It's all about trying with him. You know, a lot of producers, you'll go, what if we added this? And they'll just go, no, I don't think it sounds right. But with him, it's like, yeah, why don't we try that?
Nice.
You know? And that's really important to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's opened up a lot more of my confidence in terms of just doing whatever I want to do, whatever's in my head, whatever comes up.
Yeah.
So
was that a bit of an eye-opener for you? Because again, given the way you started, like doing everything, there's probably an element of you, particularly when you're young, which thinks, I know everything. I know it all. But you start working with these people and they start...
Yeah, I think at first like just when you're making those songs, you're just like, yeah, this is perfect, this is really good, like that will do. And yeah, I definitely rushed a lot of my songs growing up, and now I can look back and be a bit more unbiased. I think in a way imposter syndrome is a curse and a blessing, because you can actually see it for what it is, but also sometimes you don't see it for what it is and you're too harsh on yourself. But yeah, they help me. They're like a second pair of ears, basically. And I think that's really important sometimes, because there's only so much I can tell myself until it kind of just like... It's like when you eat too much sugar and it all just becomes nothingness. Yeah. You know, it's the same with when you're too much immersed in your own ideas.
Sure.
Eventually there's a wall that you hit. And you can never really know whether what you're doing is good or not. And I guess I get that a lot in the studio when I work for too long, you know, things like that.
Okay. There's one other experience I'd like to ask you about. How it came about and what the experience was like. And that was, I believe you jammed with Nile Rodgers. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a dream come true. Yeah, so I was talking to a presenter in the UK. She's great, Clara Amfo, and she works at Radio 1, and I was basically just talking about how a lot of this record and a lot of my funk stuff and a lot of the pop stuff that I've been working on, the hooks and melodies and the playing of the guitar, the way how it's really choppy and really like MIDI, is inspired by Nile Rodgers. And she was like, well, I bet if you reached out to him, he'd actually like show you a few tips and tricks, you know? So he managed to hear this interview and he was like, he just messaged me on Twitter and he was like, hey, you should come up to Abbey Road. And I was in Bedford just like chilling at a cafe. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's arrange a date or something. He was like, no, I mean now. So I got on a train. I was like, okay, I was just like ran to the train station, got on a train, went up to Abbey Road, like got a cab over there. And he was just there. And he got a Nando's. We got Nando's. You got Nando's over here, I saw. I don't know if it's any good. I'll have to try it. Anyway, we got Nando's and we just jammed a little bit. Like I brought my guitar. He had his Hitmaker, like the original Hitmaker, which Fender just did a little collaboration with him on. And his Hitmaker, if you don't know, is like the classic guitar which he wrote all of like his biggest songs on, not just wrote, but obviously played on as well. And he has it in a vault in Abbey Road, and they bring it out. It's really cool.
Wow.
So it was a very, very surreal moment. Yeah, and he's a very, very down to earth person. And yeah, I saw some chords that I haven't heard since. Yeah, there was things that I saw his hands do that I just didn't know you could even play.
Wow.
He's a very good guitarist.
Yeah.
Very jazzy. Like, people don't realize how jazzy he plays.
Okay.
He's very, very much a jazz guitarist, in my opinion.
And again, did he offer you any advice or did you just pick up anything?
I mean, I've just picked up from him my whole career, basically, you know, just listening to his records. It's not like I'd learned anything else because it's Nile Rodgers. I owe half of my guitar style to him. So,
right.
You know, the choppiness of it, you know, it was a dream come true. It was meeting one of your heroes, you know.
Did you keep your cool when you walked in the studio?
It was really hard to, but yes, only because he's the coolest person on the planet, and like you had to, or else you weren't cool yourself. So I think I was all right.
Right. Hearing you talk about Nile Rodgers, something just clicked in my head is having seen live footage of you with the double neck, like Jimmy Page's double neck, SG double neck.
Yeah, but that was actually because of John McLaughlin as well.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't just because of Page, but yeah, it was because of him as well.
Okay.
And a band called Family that I really like, and the guitarist of Family had a double neck.
Right.
So,
but you're shredding in this footage. So did you learn? Who was your influence in terms of just learning to shred?
I guess that was because of Frank Zappa,
okay.
Like listening to Zappa, and also Alan Holdsworth, those kind of guitarists. Also a bit of Gong, just like Steve Hillage was a big influence for me, like listening to his records, and John McLaughlin as well. So, okay. And Steve Vai, I guess, just about. But I don't listen to too much like of that like 80s kind of shredding stuff. It's more like 70s stuff because I'm not very good at it.
Right.
In general, I'm not very good at like the scales. I just have like certain places that I'm familiar with. And John Mayer as well is a good one for me when he like kind of plays slow.
Sure.
Sorry, not slow, fast.
Sure.
Because a lot of his solos are very like stretched out and slow, but sometimes when he does like quicker things. Oh, I mean Grateful Dead as well. There's a million different places that I learned it from and picked it out from. I think it's a bit of a mix. Oh, and Santana.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're 7 or 8 or 9 and you're listening to this music, are your mates just looking at you like, what are you listening to?
I mean, I kind of got Joss into a bit of Rush. He liked YYZ. So there were like people definitely got it. Like I had mates that liked that kind of music. Actually, I was kind of lucky to have that, and most people just didn't even notice, I guess, because it was so weird.
Right.
They were never like, "What the hell was that?" It was just I kept it kind of secret because I was almost embarrassed to prog as a kid.
Yeah.
Because it was like quite a dirty word, and like whenever I listened to it on the bus, I had to turn the volume down a bit, or else people probably would have been like, "What the hell was that?" You know.
Right. Alfie, just before we finish up, Jaxsta is all about giving credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Are there people you give credit to for helping you get where you are today?
I mean, apart from the ones that we've already mentioned, like Kieran, Justin, everyone that worked on the record that kind of just that changed my ears. So there was Charlie Perry that I did a lot of stuff with, and he's part of a little project that he does called Common Saints. That's really cool. So I've been working with him a lot recently, and I think I owe probably whatever the next album sounds like to him in a lot of ways because we bounce off a lot of ideas, and he's opened my mind a lot to that kind of stuff. Also my parents, of course, because like they're what got me into that music in the first place. And then my girlfriend, because we're just constantly sending each other music, and she's opened up my world of music even further. So nice. I think there's a lot of different people out there, but obviously my dad was the main one for even showing me guitar in the first place and getting me into that world of music. So
And your mum shared that love as well?
Yeah, well, that's how I got to Nile Rodgers, because she just played music like in the car and stuff whenever we were driving. So like 80s music quite a lot. So that's where I got into melodies, I think, and hooks.
Yeah, nice. Alfie, thank you so much for all your time, mate.
Thank you, of course. That was wicked.
And that's it for another episode of Humans of Music. A big thanks to Alfie for his time, and thank you for listening. Just a reminder that Alfie's latest album, Mellow Moon, is out now. If you have any feedback on the show or suggestions on who you'd like me to interview, or even if you just want to say hello, please drop me a line at humansofmusic@jaxsta.com. That's humansofmusic, one word, @jaxsta, JAXSTA.com. This episode was mixed by Lachlan Mitchell from Parliament Studios in Annandale, and the incidental music and theme song were written and performed by Sam Lockwood. Please remember to subscribe to the Humans of Music podcast so you never miss an episode, or even better, share it amongst your friends and rate and review it. And remember, next time you need to know who wrote a song, who produced a song, who engineered it, who played on it, who sang on it, who did anything on it, head to jaxsta.com for all your official music credit information. Until the next episode of Humans of Music, I'm Rod Yates. Thanks for listening.